Yo, Sparks, did you order something?
Nah.
Wish granting item. Right, like that's real. Huh. This is odd. I guess it wouldn't be a bad idea to try. Oh! I wish Giovanna from Guilty Gear was real and she was my wife.
Man, you're such a damn goon.
Whoa. Hi, honey.
Ew, I told you never to call me that. You know I only married you for green card status.
Damn! What gives, man? Oh wait, there's more in the box. Wish at your own risk? Ah, so I guess I have to be really specific with my wishes then. I wish for Mario Kart World to get free DLC with the all good tracks that are really fun to play. Okay. So if I check my Switch, then... Oh, there's an update. Alright, let's see what's new. Ugh, man, what the fuck? What makes a good Mario Kart track? Is it the layout, the hazards, the set pieces, or everyone's favorite metric? Oh my god, I love the vibe. It's so Tokyo coded. Yeah. Realistically, it's a mixture of all of them. Whoop-de-doo, right? But despite knowing this, even Nintendo gets it wrong sometimes, and we're left with a few unmemorable or even straight up unfun Mario Kart tracks. And I wanted to not only go through the series' history to discuss what went wrong with its most infamous tracks, but also throw my hat in the ring and try to redesign them. You know, backseat game design. But let me start by stating the obvious.
They literally just remade Mario Stadium, the literal worst track in Mario Kart 64, into the best track in Mario Kart World.
Yeah, no shit. I'm just not gonna pick that one. Mario Kart 64 is a 28-year-old game. I'm sure I can find another mediocre track. I should add that I'm only picking from the pool of nitros in each of the games. So when I get to Super Circuit, I'm not just gonna pick one of the retros that I had from the SNES. That'd be disingenuous and boring. Also, if the tracks I intended to pick was added to the Booster Course Pass and happened to be an actual glow-up and not just some super basic thing like before, then I might disqualify it from that as well. I want to use this opportunity to give other, more obscure tracks a chance to shine. And I'm going to factor in whether or not I think they'd make a good retro in Mario Kart World specifically into the selection. Oh, and since this is a video of me fixing the quote-unquote worst tracks in the game, that in and of itself comes with me subjectively picking the worst ones based on my own opinions of the tracks, as well as looking at what some of the voices in the community consider the worst tracks in the series in order to create some kind of consensus. So, since there's no actual objective worst track in the series, I'd love to hear what you guys think are the worst Mario Kart tracks as well down in the comments. And if there's enough differences from my list, then shit, maybe I'll make a follow-up at some point. And one more thing. This is a Mario Kart World Theory video, so I thought it would be fun to do my own intermissions. No, not like actual intermissions. Absolutely not. After every course remake, I'm gonna do a themed character / costume pack. Alright, let's kick things off with Super Mario Kart. From what I've seen, we, the community, have concluded that Bowser's Castle 2, Vanilla Lake 1, Vanilla Lake 2, and Ghost Valley 3 are some of the worst tracks in Super Mario Kart. Strawberry and chocolate fans rejoicing right now. While Vanilla Lake 1 and 2 have some stupid design choices with the ice blocks and having a layout that does what everyone and their mama apparently hates, being a circle, they suffer from just being kind of generic and just bogged down by the nature of how the game controls. Ghost Valley 3 just lacks what its better renditions have with alternate routes and a better track layout. But BS2? This shit is a giga troll, dude. The track is infested with 90-degree turns in a game where turning and drifting aren't exactly easy, and there's dumb little indents on the corners where you can get stuck in for some reason, and the part where you drive in a squared-off roundabout twice in a row isn't exactly something I can feasibly justify. Everyone talks shit about the feather skip though, which that's something I disagree on. The skip in theory is really cool. It's just a terrible execution. They put stop instead of something like jump for one thing. Most players are just going to give up on trying to go that direction afterwards because the game explicitly tells you not to go there. And the shortcut itself is a little bit too difficult to pull off considering it's in the flower cup. This does have artificial unk difficulty, but I think it's even weird by those standards. Regardless, I think it's a cool addition and something I can work with for one, which is why BS2 wins the remake raffle. Spoiler alert, I'm patching up those little indents too. BS2 is going to need a lot of visual upgrades since it's been neglected for so long. So let's get started with the overall look and theme of the track. I initially had a bit of a rough time trying to come up with an idea to spice up this track's visual design in a way that felt new and fresh without doing too much and losing its essence. At first, I had the idea to turn it into one giant courtyard based on the section in N64's BC, but that would take away too much from what the course was. I think that would be more of an interesting idea on its own, maybe a twisted, more difficult version of Peach Gardens. Call it Bowser Garden as a nice parallel, but I'm getting off topic. Instead of trying to force myself to come up with something, I let it sit in my mind to let inspiration come naturally. I was playing through the Heart Rally where you go through the airship fortress early on, and I noticed these very interesting pillar hazards as well as the overall semi-indoor and outdoor feel in the section of the track. I immediately knew this was the design I wanted to go for. So I looked up the top-down view of BS2 and started comparing these two areas on where I would like to make changes. Essentially, I'm going to turn Bowser Castle into a more enclosed version of BS3 from Deluxe, but this is strictly visually. Think of it like the interior of modern Bowser's Castle tracks, but they took only those hallways, plucked them out, and threw them right into the middle of the lava lake. The exterior looks a lot like if those Super Mario Bros. Course clear forts were put together in a line and conjoined. I also want to keep the track very narrow and claustrophobic. Obviously, I'll throw in a bit of compensation because of how many racers there are, but I want the straightaways to feel very threatening during play. Oh, and before I change anything too much, I should mention that the track already has thwomps here. The first big change I'm going to make is to that big B.
There's a B.
After the shortcut, there won't be walls in the two middle pits of lava anymore. Now people can charge jump over them, or fall in, but I know people that like and subscribe to my channel are good at the game, so I'm not worried. The second section will have more coins along the right side of the course, leading towards a boost panel in the corner. Since this route is unnecessarily slower than just taking a tight line through the left side or now jumping across the lava pit, it'll need some kind of incentive for racers to choose it. The boost panel also makes it a bit easier to keep pace with other racers as well. The wall in the center will turn into a pillared railing. This is just tall enough for you to fairly easily wall ride up and grind on, but the main use is for a feather cut. Yep, I'm adding a second, smaller feather cut to this track. I feel like these changes will give the track more fluid turns, even with the weirder layout. This makes it more open-ended with the various ways to approach navigating the section. Visually, the room is very dark with only the light from the holes in the walls from the shortcuts and the faint dim of the lava. And staying on the topic of shortcuts, I'm changing the first feather cut to have off-road at the beginning of the turn. You'll either have to mushroom boost through it or wall ride over it. And in place of that dumbass bold white text, there was a jump booster. Wait, chill. I know how we feel about removing this track's biggest feature with the feather-only jump cut, but I'm not removing it. If you have a feather item in hand, you can take the jump booster and feather jump on top of the roof of the track. You'll be able to drive a short distance before having to drop into a hole above the second pit of lava to join the other racers. Unless you're skilled enough to wall ride on the side of the castle top, blocking the exit back to the track roof side, which is risky because you could easily overshoot into the lava on the other side of the track. You'd also be going for this purely to take a faster route. The initial jump onto the roof misses these item boxes here, and if you also go for the aggressive jump cut afterwards to get an even bigger lead, you'd also land just past the item boxes after the turn, and I don't need to remind you about what can go wrong during these. Now for some smaller changes. I'm turning these parts of the track into chain link pathways where lava bubble hazards can jump up and burn you, and I'm walling in parts of every straightaway. There will be a few railings that you can grind on sprinkled in into other areas. Obviously I can't add too many though because it's a Bowser's Castle track, and I need to maintain that threat of falling into the lava. And it wouldn't be Mario Kart without a little bit of murder, so I'm going to get rid of these 3 thwomps that sit right above the second to last bump for the final straightaway too. There's enough chaos already to balance out this change. When it comes to free roam and actually accessing the lake through Grand Prix and Knockout Tour, there's not really much you can do with this track because it's just a giant lava lake. The entrance and exit to the track is here, because it's surrounded on all sides by castle walls that tower over you as you race. I'm thinking most of the challenges will be on the rooftop of the track with a few fun glider challenges. It would be cool if one of the challenges gives you golden mushrooms and you have to make a giant cut through the track as a challenge though. Okay, here's your retro revival of SNES Bowser Castle 2. With the Bowser's Castle being our first track covered, I thought it'd be fitting for our first costume pack to be Castle Enemy theme. Dry Bowser, Bone Piranha Plant from New Super Mario Bros. 2, Mummy Pokey from New Super Mario Bros. 1, and Lava Bubble will be joining as separate characters. Well, everyone except for Mummy Pokey. This is because every Dry variant character is getting a Sugar Skull costume. It's fun and makes sense considering the Dia de los Muertos aesthetic that Dry Bones Burnout brought to the game. Welcome to Unkville, home of the dudes in their mid-40s that think you should beat your kids if they fail a math test. Our candidates for the second worst track in the game are Frap Snowland, Sherbetland, Banshee Boardwalk, and Calamari Desert. First off, get Sherbetland out of here. I don't care about it. Painfully mid, and I think Frap Snowland has more interesting things going for it than that course, if I'm being honest. And I find it more difficult to choose a course from these three, considering I think they could all make for great remakes in Mario Kart World. Calamari Desert could easily be another fun railroad track with Mario Kart World grinding mechanics. But if I'm being honest, let's just get Super Bell Subway back at that point, bro. So I'm gonna choose between Banshee Boardwalk and Frap Snowland. I think Frap Snowland has a lot of potential to be a great remake considering MKW's mechanics, with there being potential for a lot of verticality being added. The section of the track that gets walled in towards the end of the track would really shine through. But man, we only have one ghost track in the game. Yeah, I know, who cares if a style of course is underrepresented? We should prioritize having tracks that provide good variety and engaging mechanics. But it is kind of weird that one of the more iconic locales in Mario games is just kind of off to the side. So, with there already being 3 ice courses in MKW that are all ranging from decent to top 5, I'm gonna help King Boo feel more at home in this game. Banshee Boardwalk is an interesting course. It has a lot of half-baked ideas, whether they were due to the limitations of the game, or it originates from just because they wanted a simple way to create an eerie atmosphere. I still think the track's got good bones. Let's dive into Banshee Boardwalk's track theme first and foremost. I think it'd be a great idea if we turned Banshee Boardwalk into a haunted rundown boathouse. These random walls with graffiti arrows on them from the old version are an inspiration for the interior flair to make the indoor boathouse part of the track stand out more. There could be drawings of boos or other spooky themed enemies scattered all over the walls. The inside of the boathouse will see one minor change where instead of the wall to your left, it's a giant boat docked inside with an old tarp covering it. Instead of a hole in the floor to the left of the room, it's now designed to have a gap in the middle because boats are meant to be constantly coming in and out of the boathouse. Or at least that's what it used to be used for. To your right is the boat's entrance to the building. There's a boost ramp on the main path so you can clear the gap and continue to the track. Now the bats are an even more dangerous hazard because they constantly come in and out of the chest and can collide with racers midair. There won't be as many bats coming out of the chest at any given time like in the original, maybe about 5 to 8 swoops that are Wario's goldmine size. You'll also be able to use the boat to mushroom boost off of it and over the hole in the floor. The mushroom is required because there's slippery muddle over the tarp that gives you less traction and counts as off-road, so you plummet into the water if you aren't careful. I also want them to add like a dark fog effect when you approach this track. I'd love for this track to have a pitch black skybox again, but with the day and night cycle I don't think that's a possibility. We can achieve a similar feel with a thick fog instead that has an imposing feeling of dread, so you get that feeling from not really knowing what lies beyond the track. Now that we have MKW mechanics, I'm going to do what everyone is thinking. Get rid of the railings. Why are you laughing? I'm serious. I'm not getting rid of the potential to grind on the railings of the track though. They're going to be replaced by rail bumps instead. Shh! Because they're still good for rail grinding. They'll kind of protrude a little bit more so they can have a second function of being a trickable speed bump. Kind of like GBA Rainbow Road, except nobody from my generation knows what that is, so it's like these things but the long way.
The long way. Peanut butter, the long way.
The edge of the bumps will curve up like those little rail grind bumps in Acorn Heights that send you into the air. This is so you can more easily land back on the track when rail grinding near a sharp turn, so you're more incentivized to use them. Them being little bumps now boost the difficulty of the track similarly to how it felt to drive back in N64. Since we've come so far with Mario Kart driving over the years, there's been more emphasis on using the track design to amp up the difficulty of the driving rather than vice versa. If you're hesitant on whether the track like this would work with the Chaos 24 racers, then think back to the boardwalk leading up to Boo Cinema. The road will be slightly thinner than that, but I think it's a very manageable track. Now we'll be able to maintain the difficulty that Banshee Boardwalk kinda lost when it became a retro track in DS. I'm also curving the edges of the bumps that intersect so we can have more slick rail jumps like in Airship Fortress. It's going to be a little tricky though, because with how close you are to the ground, if you run into someone you'll bounce off their head and likely fall off the track. And you can charge jump into the lantern post to do little jump skips like in DK Pass as well. I think this takes advantage of the track's layout being above ground but simultaneously being pretty open in a way that keeps the same track layout but ingeniously invites using the game's mechanics to create fun shortcuts. And those small changes to the course go a long way in making a course like this great. This really isn't a change, but I'm leaving that hole above the bat chest open so you can do a feather skip with it. I feel like they initially wanted to have a feather in 64 but just didn't, and Banshee Boardwalk just had the hole there that there's a forgotten remnant of that choice. I get that this building has no ceiling, but like, come on, that shit's way too conspicuous, dude. But yeah. Now that can be fully realized. As for driving to the track, there will just be a connection between land and the start of the boardwalk. It's that simple. The fog that I mentioned earlier could make for an interesting free roam traversal mechanic though. You'd be navigating the foggy waters during P-switch challenges. And with that, that's all my changes to Banshee Boardwalk. For this pack, I decided to keep it on the simpler side. This pack is so simple even current day Nintendo's greedy ass could consider it a free update. This costume pack brings back the metal variants from Mario Kart 8. Metal and Gold Mario as well as Pink Gold Peach are coming back. Ow! Hey! It's been 11 years since she was put in Mario Kart 8. Calm down! They were never really hard to implement in the first place, so I'm surprised they didn't make a return, honestly. They're literally just Mario and Peach models with one solid color, a metallic gloss effect slapped on, and voice filter. I think it'd be more fun if they included more this time, too. Adding Silver Luigi from NSMB2 and an all-new orange Bronze Daisy to complement Peach. Wait, what about Rosalina? Man, fuck Rosalina!
You need to leave!
Nah, I'm just playing. Mario Kart World made me love the girlies, to be honest. Never really cared about them in Mario Kart up until this game with the redesigns. They have so much style and I love Rosalina's pro racer outfit especially. Quick side note. Wait, intermission within the intermission. Why does Rosalina sound so damn happy? That sounds messed up, but like, she has too much energy. She's never been devoid of emotion, don't get me wrong. I think she just feels more like Peach now. It reminds me of the whole modern SpongeBob versus old SpongeBob thing. Steven Universe kids get what I'm saying. She's supposed to be the quote-unquote Garnet type.
Shop! Oh, Steven, there's one more thing I had to mention.
What is it?
I love you. Bye.
See you later!
Peach is known to be the staple chipper cheerleader type, Daisy is the loud and energetic type, and Rosalina is supposed to be the stoic, calm, and chill one. They made it too chalant, bro. Rosalina is the type of girl to say type shit and be mysterious. Like, listen to her Wii voice direction versus her in World. I'm not gonna lie, after hearing them both, it's not that big of a difference. You know what I think it is actually? She doesn't have that echo in her voice anymore. I think that's why it's so noticeable. Oh yeah, she's not getting a metal variant, she's getting her Cosmic Ghost form from SMB2 as a costume. Are you gonna trans- I'm gonna keep it a stack. I'm blurring most of the footage I have of this game. You're not about to catch me lacking, brother. No. I was getting farmed, man. Holy shit. I already know if I show too much of this game, I'm getting audited by the Council of Gamers, dude. But anyway, Super Circuit is an interesting game in the series. It's the first portable Mario Kart and the first to introduce retros to the game. There were stinkers, yeah, and they weren't even called retros, but they were retros nonetheless. This is going to be an interesting lineup as well because 3 of arguably the worst tracks in the game were given banger glow-ups in 8 Deluxe, and most of the other ones appeared in later titles in one way or another. So, our candidates for worst track in the game after mass disqualification are Yoshi Desert, Lakeside Park, Peach Circuit, and Luigi Circuit. Yeah, if this were a regular course ranking, I doubt most of these would be anywhere near the bottom. But I also need to choose one that hasn't already been a decent remake.
What about Sunset Wilds?
Dude, be honest here. If they weren't lazy and just made a skybox change, nobody would bat an eye. That track was already just okay with a somewhat interesting hazard with the Shy Guys and stuff like that, but whatever. So with that, I'm dropping Peach Circuit first. It's kind of a nothing burger course in Super Circuit to begin with, which isn't the track's fault, it's the first one in the game. With Super Circuit being a GBA game, a lot of tracks either rely heavily on track layouts or background set pieces. Peach Circuit relies on just Peach's castle being in the background. And let's be honest, don't nobody give a fuck. There's already a better Peach Circuit in the game with the stadium track, so it won't be missed. If I was to add it to the game though, I'd put it in a free update and change out that fuck ass paperclip in the shell cup for this track layout instead. But moving on, I'm gonna go ahead and kill off Luigi Circuit, just because it kind of suffers from the same thing. A whole lot of visual flair with the rain and nothing else really going for it. The puddles and extra slipperies are pretty cool though, I'll give it that. Lakeside Park and Yoshi Desert on the other hand actually have some cool hazards. Lakeside Park does something similar to what Shy Guy Beach and Wii does. It'll shoot out a bunch of molten rocks onto the track that you have to dodge, and has a great visual aesthetic and adds unique varieties to the lush green course type that we don't really see in Mario Kart. Whereas Yoshi Desert has one of the most unique types of enemy hazard in the Mario Kart series with the little quicksand piranha plant pits that slurp you up for a few seconds then spit you back out on the track. No Lakitu ambulance insurance bill coming in the mail next week. I'm not gonna lie to you, this might be the hardest choice I've had to make for this video because I feel like I have great ideas for making both of these tracks. But I'm gonna have to go with Lakeside Park here, which is kind of crazy because when I started drafting this video, I was looking forward to finally bringing Yoshi Desert back because ever since I found out about the Yoshi Sphinx, I wanted it in a modern Mario Kart. But Lakeside Park's layout and shortcuts, along with its engaging hazards, just have to come back. When it comes to Lakeside Park's overall theming, I don't feel like I need to change anything. The concept of a jungle track in the middle of a volcanic eruption doesn't really need anything else to make it more interesting. When it comes to the track design, however, I'm going to have to make a few changes. Most notably, the drift check that's 2/3 into the track. I know, it's funny, and as a course that is meant to be more difficult, it makes sense. But I'm not gonna get rid of it completely. Instead of just a hill you can end up falling off of, it's a bump rail. So now, you can still fall off, it's just way harder. Well, with the amount of racers there are now, I don't know if that's still a true statement, because you will do the drive back of shame if you fall off. Whether you just end up driving straight through it like a dolt or get Mario Karted while on the rail won't change that. So I kept it, but it's just more forgiving this time around. There would be so many Reddit threads of this track if they kept this part in like me, man. I'm also changing the jump right after from bumpers that send you flying to a natural overpass. The ground boost panels right in front of it are still there, but the overpass now obscures your vision of the shortcut. You'll be able to fly off the overpass into the shortcut like before, but now it's a blind jump instead. The original jump was hard because everything happened so fast and you were also fighting the controls at the same time, so getting it was tricky. Mario Kart World has very good controls, and overall the speed of the game is a bit slower, so I think it's a welcome change. I'm only going to make one more change to this track, and that has to do with the bridge towards the middle of the track. I'm going to extend it a bit because it's going to be a changing set piece on the course. The bridge on the first lap is normal but has a slightly elevated arc design. On the second lap, the bridge is set on fire by the volcano, with the middle of the bridge being burnt off and you being able to trick across it. There's a dark wall of smoke that rises up from under the bridge that obscures your vision before passing. This makes it dangerous because you won't immediately have the foresight of knowing where the molten rocks are on the track. On the final lap, the bridge has completely burned up, but the last remaining charged edges function as little trick bumps into a brief water section before continuing onto the track. Lakeside Park is already an interesting track conceptually, it was just kind of held back by being on the GBA, which was proven back in 8 Deluxe already. I think it was best to highlight the strengths of it, rather than just be overzealous and do too much with it. The drive up to this track is simple, just a dirt path that leads into the track. Free roam would probably be pretty simple as well. I do think a fun challenge would be to have a glider segment that crosses the whole track, but you have to dodge raining fireballs from the volcano. And in Knockout Tour, the track can easily be converted into a straightaway through the drift check. The fireballs would rain down and make for a pretty memorable segment of a Knockout Tour Cup. And with that, here's all my changes to Lakeside Park. Alright, pack 3. Since we're coming out of the jungle theme track, why not have some jungle theme? It's Diddy.
I want to be
And also some of DK's other friends, like VoidCon. And Young Pauline. Some characters are getting costumes like DK, Pauline, and Young Pauline. Pauline and Young Pauline are getting their dress and hat combo. Young Pauline gets a few more outfits based on the different Bonanza locales. And DK at the very least gets his overalls and miner's cap. I also want to put in a Fracto. And if I could get one more pick to throw in there, give me the little snake guy from the Radiance Lair. He's so cute, look at him! Alright, Double Ducks, single file line. I know what you're here for, and you're not getting it back though. Mushroom City stays in the vault. That track was too good to make the cut. The candidates for Worst Double Dash Course are Wario Coliseum, Mario Circuit, Luigi Circuit, and Mushroom Bridge. In this situation, because Wario already has a good amount of tracks, I'm gonna have to pull it out of the running. Otherwise, we're going to have to start calling this shit Wario Kart, because we'll be seeing Wario's face everywhere again. It really has come full circle, huh? Yeah, I'm really pitting two brothers against each other. But, such is the nature of these things. Survival of the fittest. Or I guess, unfitted. Luigi Circuit's fun gimmick with being able to see other racers as you pass by is pretty novel, but I don't see how I can substantially update this track in a way that plays up this aspect of the course without wanting to just make a new layout entirely that fully explores the idea. So, see you next time, Luigi. And lastly, we got 4 Mario Circuits collectively already in world. Send this shit back to the basement where it belongs. So, our winner is Mushroom Bridge. Yes, I know, Mushroom Bridge is a similar case to Luigi Circuit because it's not a bad track by any means. I honestly would have given it to Mario Circuit if there wasn't already the new one and the mega mashup of 3 classic SNES circuits. It can come back at a later time. I think Mushroom Bridge mostly suffers from being a bit of an unremarkable track, even though it has a lot of charm with the bridge itself, the Wiggler bus, and even the little mushroom houses you see as you pass by. I really like the track overall, and if they did bring it back as is and just added a few railings to grind on, I wouldn't be mad personally. But with that said, I think a fun way to reimagine this track would be to change this turn right here. Instead of the normal highway route, the roadway and the houses swap places. The houses now end in a cul-de-sac, while the highway goes up and around where the old dirt road was. I think turning this whole area into a little mushroom suburb would be fun to explore in free roam too. The mushroom cul-de-sac has a bit more narrow of a line in its design, as opposed to the original's wider turn for drifting. The housing is an alternate route that has a boost ramp for you to jump onto the rooftops. The houses will have a series of ramps that are reminiscent of some other tracks like DS Wario Stadium and 8, but also have some guardrails for grinding to represent a balcony on top of some of the housing. This route allows for a fun and somewhat risky reward because falling off is a real threat. It also makes it harder for other racers to hit you, so taking this route has some good strategic elements to it. This parallels the final bridge shortcut pretty nicely too, and puts more emphasis on the verticality that is present in the original. This new route is slightly faster than the highway section with a glider section after the series of jumps that will fluidly navigate racers back onto the highway to the entrance of the second tunnel. The differences between the two routes doesn't end here though. The rooftop route also has a sparing amount of item boxes with no double item boxes present. The highway route will have a standard line of item boxes that will give the player a bit more of a tough choice strategically while racing. These changes add some more charm to the track by making the cute mushroom houses more present in the track than just leaving them as a small set piece, which I think is a smart way to spruce up the track more by adding another engaging section that builds on its merits. Also, I wanted to state something else that really isn't a change but more of a confirmation. I'm reintroducing the bridge shortcut and the alternate pipe route that shoots you out with the double item box that was taken out in DS. And while I'm at it, this being a city track in a modern Mario Kart automatically gives it some more variety and routing on the track. Those buses you could do tricks off the tops of would be fun. We just have to make sure to add some glider ramp trucks that spawn in fairly frequently. It would be fun if when you landed on top of the Wiggler bus, its humps had a series of little tricks you could perform off of them. Maybe even make it a little wider and put edges you can rail grind on. I think it would be even cooler if the Wiggler bus was extra long this time around. It could be the introduction of an accordion bus to Mario Kart. It would be great because it completely isolates racers on one side of the road while also being a makeshift wall for people to ride on. It doesn't have to be exclusive to this one course either. Having them appear during intermissions would be a little cherry on top. As for the free roam and actually accessing the island through Grand Prix and Knockout Tour, I think adding a port on the inside of the track would be interesting. You'd have to boat across the ocean and pass under the bridge before driving up and through the port onto the track. And no, the bridge won't have the same rising ramp mechanic as the mock Golden Gate Bridge that leads to Crown City. On your way out, the rolling start will take you to the right of the track towards the alternate pipe path entrance, but instead of turning towards the pipe, there's a glider ramp that will send you back out to sea. This track had very interesting geographical aspects to it, which could really be celebrated through the open world of MKW. Alright, these are all the changes I made to Mushroom Bridge. This pack is going to be for more enemy characters with an emphasis on 3D World. This time we're bringing in Boom Boom, Pom Pom, Skip Squeak, Spiny Skip Squeak, which could be an alt costume, the Galumba, the Ant Trooper, and the Spiny Ant Trooper, which again could be an alt costume. I was kind of surprised that Boom Boom and Pom Pom didn't make it into the base game, so at least get them now.
Here we go!
Ooh boy, now we're getting to the interesting stuff with the more modern tracks. Mostly because a lot of modern tracks will be harder to come up with better ideas for because they aren't as bogged down by the limitations of the games that came before. But let's get into the DS candidates for worst track in the game. We have Figure 8 Circuit, Yoshi Falls, Desert Hills, and Bowser Castle. This is the first and only time I'm going to add a track that's already in Mario Kart World onto one of these nominations. I cannot, for the life of me, understand how they butchered this track like this. These dudes are a cool addition to the game. Let me raise this one. But overall, this track is some... But obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit. This isn't a hill I'm really gonna die on. Not that I could do that anyways, they flattened this bitch out crazy. I'm not gonna pick it though. You really did, you thought. The second track I'll be eliminating is Figure 8 Circuit. It's just boring. I stated already that we have enough circuit tracks. I also think Lakeside Park has a similar circuit track feel that rounds out our grassland/forest themed tracks way better. So now it's all down to Yoshi Falls and Bowser Castle. This is a weird one. Bowser Castle DS visuals to me feel kind of uninspired as a BC. It heavily borrows its aesthetics from the N64's BC, which I don't think is bad per se, but this track also just kind of does shit. It has a fun track design with one giant spinning drill and the merry-go-round too. I just feel like it's a B tier track. It's kind of like 3DS Bowser's Castle if it had some actual cohesion. I kind of like that one too, but from what I've seen online, it's not well liked, so there you go. But to add on to this, with my rendition of SNES BC2, the absolute banger that is World's Bowser's Castle, and Drybone's Burnout as a variety course in the lava-themed courses, we don't really need it. But on the other hand, Yoshi Falls is literally just potential, man. An amazing set piece with a mediocre layout and a half-baked mechanic with the rapids, so really just a big-ass egg is all it has going for it. But I'm gonna go ahead and pick Yoshi Falls. So, DS Bowser Castle is shooting for the moon and it isn't coming back. Alone again. Alright, let's give Yoshi Falls a fresh coat of new theme paint. What could Yoshi Falls be repurposed into aesthetically? Well, it's got water and a large mountain region surrounding it on all sides. And what's known to be where both of these things are?
Waterfalls?
What? No, man, come on. Yoshi Falls already has waterfalls. It's in the name.
Oh, my bad.
No, buddy, good try. The answer is hot springs. That guy kind of blew the wind out of my sails on that one, I'm not gonna lie. But yes, Yoshi Falls in Mario Kart World is going to be a hot spring resort. All of the wooden bridge segments are going to be converted into bathhouses. I'm thinking the starting line is inside a wooden parking area connected to a building. This could be the resort's rec center and cafeteria. They could even have a pickup window where you can grab a food bag item too. It looks similar to the barn in Moo Moo Meadows, but it has a large balcony on top with a bunch of tables with straw umbrellas providing shade. It'd sport a big sign of Yoshi Falls Resort to add some more visual flair. The other bathhouses are also going to have this same ramp-like elevations as the one turn right before the end of the track because why not? That part of the track was the only semblance of a dopamine hit besides the boost panels that you'd ever get. The length of these wooden portions of the track will be extended as well, just to segment the two lanes a bit more. It'd make for some interesting interactions with other racers by repeatedly sectioning off and reopening parts of the track. As for the bigger changes in gameplay across the course, Yoshi Falls needs a lot of work to be a good track. It suffers from a bad case of boring layout. The track is also just kind of weirdly short too, but I don't want to change the layout because I want to stick as close to the original track's intended vision as possible, which is a good code to stick by because MKW doesn't have labels for retros. It also forces me to get creative. If I just pulled a Peach Beach with all these new designs, that would be just boring because then I'm just doing shit for the sake of it. My first change is I'm going to add a bit more of a layer of verticality to the track. The decorative buntings that are lined across the start of the track now provide a function by letting you gain roof access to the various bathhouses. There's tall wooden posts lined along both ends of the track that connect all the buntings across the whole of the course. Gotta love festive functionality. You can also use a feather to get up there too. If you wanted, once you gain access to the top part of the track, you could easily stay up there for as long as there's little interference from third parties. The bunting does stretch diagonally along the entire course using a kind of zigzag motion. This makes it overall slower than driving on the ground, which is mainly to deter players from abusing the high ground to interact less with other racers. Also, those umbrellas made of straw will bounce you up like the umbrellas on Koopa Troopa Beach, so skilled players will be able to time tricks off of the bunting into the straw umbrellas for some slick movements. My next change is going to be to the rapids. The rapids sections are going to have a few Dino Dino Jungle style geysers jutting out of the water. And since they're on a slant, if you get blasted, you're gone, brother. On the longest stretch of water near the middle, I'm adding a small railing. Obviously, this makes it easier to not fall off the track, but with the geysers there, so is that threat. The railing is more for fun, if anything. I'm also extending this railing along the curve afterwards to connect to the railing near the next waterfall, so that this can feasibly be used as a shortcut. One of the main reasons this didn't really work as a shortcut in the older games is because that curve inwards was way too sharp. If you were mushroom boosting and took the corner too fast, you could easily lose control and fly off the course. This forces players to slow down and merge back into the top lane, which makes the whole point of the water as a shortcut completely useless. By adding this railing at the end of the track, it gives more racers more leeway so that they can go a little wild. They can mushroom boost through the rapids and ride the railing through the sharp curve while taking the most inward line possible. This cut could easily work with just one mushroom too, considering you can launch off the first geyser bump to jump most of the water. I'm also gonna sprinkle in a few geysers along the regular parts of the track. This is for some fun tricking opportunities, as well as providing a nice hazard that will force racers to be more active in their routing on the course. These would work in tandem with the bunting, so you can purposefully blast off the geyser to land on one of them if you wanted. More use of verticality, which promotes more interesting ways to race. All of these little ways to gain speed snowball, so you're constantly just boosting around. Coupled with the fact that this track's layout is so short, I think it would leave players wanting more of the track in a good way. It combines some of that mindless fun of performing a lot of tricks that a track like Excite Bike Arena has, with some of the more engaging ways to go about using the terrain to your advantage. People wanting to play more Yoshi Falls. I know, right? Since this track is for MKW, it needs to have an entrance, and also have good flow as part of a knockout tour. You'll be able to enter and exit the track through one of the river rapids that surrounds the area. You'll take a glider ramp off of one of the falls and fly towards the starting line. As for Knockout Tour, this is where you'll be able to go inside the giant egg, baby. There's going to be a long wooden bridge that connects at two ends of the track from one of the river rapids to the other. These are suspension bridges that create waves like Maple Treeway's net in Wii. You'll drive into the giant egg, where inside is a hot tub sauna. There's various hot tubs as well as common areas with benches for guests that just want to sweat it out. Depending on which side you come from, you'll either ascend or descend a spiral ramp inside the egg. Frequently, you'll briefly drive on top of small hot tubs along the walls of the egg. At the bottom is one giant communal tub. You'll exit back onto the other side of the bridge and drive towards the rapids and exit the course. I find it fun to have the player find out that the giant egg, after all these years, ironically turns out to be one giant incubator in a sense. It seems like a very Nintendo kind of gag. But yeah, that's all my changes to Yoshi Falls. This one's gonna be a super basic one. Just bring back the Koopalings, man. But to make things a little bit more interesting, I'm also throwing in the Boodles. If I'm keeping it real, I'd get rid of all of these guys just to bring back the Koopa Kid from the GameCube Mario parties. But to be honest, it's more likely we get Gino before we ever see that little guy again. Mario Kart Wii. We know it, we love it. Is it overglazed? Yes. Am I going to get a job at Krispy Kreme so I can learn how to glaze this game even more? Also yes. But every game, no matter how good, always has its faults. MK Wii is no exception. So our candidates for worst Wii track are Luigi Circuit, Mario Circuit, Grumble Volcano, and Moonview Highway. To start, I'm knocking off Mario Circuit. While I do think it's a decent Mario Circuit for what it's worth, it's not as bland and boring as Luigi Circuit. I also think if we add another Mario Circuit to the game, there's better ones to bring back. Luigi Circuit is so inoffensive that it ironically wraps around to being offensive. The only thing this track has going for it is that the Miis can become Luigi on the track, but even Daisy Circuit does it better. Grumble Volcano is an interesting track with an interesting gimmick. It's mostly up the year because a lot of the tracks have been remade already. Daisy Circuit was an okay candidate, but it's already a decent course as well. I know most people are pointing at their screen and going, what about Dry Dry Ruins? I'm glad you asked. Dry Dry Ruins is a better track than Grumble Volcano, flat out. I think it's one of the best desert courses in the Mario Kart series, let alone better than this goober that can't sit still for 3 laps. That being said, I would much rather get rid of Grumble Volcano because of the variety of lava-themed tracks that would be in this game post-BS2. And to be honest, I don't know what the fuck to change about this course. It's one of the most hit or miss tracks there is. You either love it or you hate it. I personally like it, but outside of adding a few little changes to give it some MKW spice to it, it's kinda lost on me. One of its main gimmicks with the fireballs is something I already brought back with Lakeside Park 2. Hell, I technically brought back both gimmicks because I'm adding a part to the track that changes every lap but isn't as annoying like Grumble's. So we really aren't missing anything other than the track hitting his little jig after lap 1. Okay, all down to Luigi Circuit and Moonview Highway. Moonview is definitely a better candidate of the two. It has lots of high elevations that would be complemented really well by MKW's new mechanics. But with Crown City and my headcanon Mushroom Bridge being added, I think we've already reached a good sweet spot on the courses with car hazards. Besides, a lot of intermissions have basically its own mini city track feel with the constant weaving between cars you have to do. So, fuck, I'm stuck with Luigi Circuit. Oh my god. I blame the monkey's paw. This isn't on me, alright? In terms of aesthetics, I don't think there's much I could really change. Circuit tracks are meant to be basic, but it would be cool if it had the same confetti particle effect that Toad Circuit has in SNES Remake. Except instead of only being near the finish line after every lap, it's just constant. I don't know why, but imagining driving through free roam and randomly getting the confetti particle effect on my screen when I pass by Luigi's Circuit just feels like it'd be kind of cool. Like, oh hey, I'm in Don Luigi's territory, but I'd act a fool.
This sounds very gay.
That's not to say I won't make any changes to its visuals, but its visual changes are closely tied to its gameplay changes, so I'm going to hold off on talking about them for a bit. As for the track design, I honestly think there's a fun way we can go about reimagining this track, all things considered. Mario Kart Tour introduced RMX courses to the series. I know, phone game bad, whatever. And even though Wii Luigi Circuit wasn't in Tour, we can use this remake's idea to season this pale ass chicken in the course. Mario Kart Tour added specific remix types of courses. One type had the letter T attached to it. These T variants were trick variants. And what does Mario Kart World do best?
It limits player expression, which has been a vital part of the Mario Kart series for a while now, and with it setting the precedent of an $80 AAA title, that issue gets exacerbated even though realistically it isn't that bad.
That is not the answer I was looking for. It's correct, but not the answer. The answer I was looking for was tricks. So let's turn Luigi Circuit into RMX Wii Luigi Circuit T. I know some of the RMX T courses in Tour go off the track and change the layout of the course in a lot of ways, but I want to stay as close to the original as possible in terms of track layouts. It helps me to keep a track feeling like an updated version of an existing course. Now I'll start with the visuals since we have some background. This Luigi Circuit is undergoing renovations. Luigi heard y'all talking shit on his course, so he's gonna turn it up a notch. But it looks like he got his dates mixed up. So the first change I'm going to make to the track is at the final turn of the course. There's no longer going to be a pipe shortcut. That's being blocked off by a bunch of trucks carrying various materials for renovation. There's a conveniently placed glider truck at the end of the sand lot though. This whole area behind the section with the boost panels is now considered an out of bounds. I'm also flattening out this pseudo half pipe thing it's got going on. This is because the start of the frontal curve is a massive ramp being built that's curving in the same direction. And yes, it's being built by Parabitty Bud Construction. The beginning of the ramp is unfinished though, and there's an opening to the right of it that will let you go underneath. You should be careful though, because there's a bunch of support beams that can easily slow you down. This inside path will let you access the truck's glider ramp with a mushroom in the sand lot. You can still drive underneath and go normally, but it's going to be a bit slower if you don't take the ramp. I'm also removing most of the boost panels that were on the floor while adding lots of boost panels to the big ramp. The boost panels now extend to the innermost side of the turn on the ramp now too. After the ramp, there will be two pieces of road suspended by drones that will let you do tricks off them as you ascend back down to the roadway. Moving on, before the first turn will be two small trick ramps placed asymmetrically along the road. These are for more tricking opportunities, but they're very close to the first turn, so they'll act as a mini hazard. If you jump off the ramp without paying attention to the angle you're jumping off of them at, you might take this turn too wide and lose speed. At the first turn will be an elevated curve with a grind rail attached. And this next part is interesting. Both sides of the pond where the Cheep Cheep balloon are will be flooded. This is because those parts of the asphalt haven't been redone yet. The first flooded part of the track will have a boost ramp, but the second one won't. This adds a bit more variance to the track without changing too much. The dips into the water as well as the climb out are some fun little tricking opportunities. Before the second flooded portion of the track, there's a railing in the center that will segment the track briefly. This railing will go over the flooded part so you can grind on the railing for a slightly faster route. The railings end right after to give racers easier access to the ramp in the off-road off to the left. The turn before the second dip in the pond will be a half pipe. If you have a mushroom and boost into the half pipe, you'll be able to access another floating platform that sits above the road and goes across the dip in the water. You can then trick off the end to join the other racers for the final turn. As for entering the track, I'm placing the road leading into the course right behind the second flooded part of the course. This way you'll be able to experience the best parts of the track at least twice during a Grand Prix or knockout tour. In terms of free roam stuff, doing a challenge where you drive around the Cheep Cheep balloon would be fun. Hey, maybe even make a challenge where you can hop into the balloon and control it. Add some glider challenge shenanigans with the big ramp, and I think you've got yourself a pretty damn good course. So, there's all my changes to Wii Luigi Circuit. Since Luigi Circuit has been all about remixing something old to make it new, I think characters in the game should reflect that. It's time to get a little silly. Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Daisy all swap outfits. Peach and Daisy are wearing red and green overalls, while Mario and Luigi are rocking the pink and orange dresses. Rosalina gets, Toad. If anything, I do think it'd be possible for Peach and Daisy to get the overalls. I don't know if Nintendo would get wacky enough for Mario and Luigi cross-dressing. It'd be funny though. Realistically, Rosa would get like Wario or Waluigi. For me, preferably Waluigi. Outside of that, I don't think anything else would be plausible. Maybe Pauline would dress in a DK Party City costume, but I think that'd be pushing it.
Mario Kart.
Man, I miss 3DS days. I have so many fond memories of the console and its games. I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't implemented any of the ideas the 3DS gave us with Street Pass and its fun little minigames. Now more than ever with the introduction of Game Chat on the Switch too. Maybe I'll yap about that some other time though. That's because it's time to get into our 3DS candidates for worst Mario Kart track. Our nominees are Daisy Hills, Cheep Cheep Lagoon, Mario Circuit, and Rosalina's Ice World. MK7 is known in very unknown circles for having a very well-rounded list of tracks. This is because nobody fucking talks about this game anymore. You're either playing World or 8DX. I don't really see a reason to return this game other than to play as the bottom-heavy honeybee. Is it misogynistic to talk about it that way? I don't know and I don't care. Which is exactly how I feel about Cheep Cheep Lagoon. Get it out of here! It's a track with only one gimmick of being underwater and that's it. Mario Kart World has no underwater driving, and 6 courses with water as a staple of the track. This is probably the least compatible course for this game in the entire series. Mario Circuit has the potential to be an interesting course. It fits right next to Peach Stadium with it having cherry blossom trees and Peach's Castle in its course. The only problem is that Peach's Castle already has a set layout in Mario Kart World. I guess you could just pull a Las Vegas and give it a mini castle as a set piece, but that just doesn't feel right. No matter how I try to reason it, this course just kind of wouldn't make sense coming back, so I'm dropping it. Alright, top 2. And it's a literal battle royale with both Daisy Hills and Rosalina's Ice World duking it out. Rosalina's Ice World is a little iffy as a choice given how Starview Peak already has the observatory baked into its track design, but it's technically off to the side so a remake would be feasible, and Daisy Hills has a whole lot of pretty visuals with a whole lot of nothing else. While there's potential for adding some variety for the only 3 ice courses that are present in World, I'm going to have to pass on Rosa's track. How am I gonna turn nothing into something? Daisy Hills has a lot of grain and a lot of windmills, so why not lean even more into it? Daisy Hills is now a giant mini golf themed race course. Visually, the beginning of the course won't be changing much. The second half of the course changes a good amount though. It looks a lot more man-made, with a lot of large brick barriers lining the sides of the grassy portions of the track. There's larger windmills present on the main route of the course now too. But our first actual change to the track is going to be at the bridge right after. The bridge is being taken out and replaced with a small ramp at the start that sends you out onto the water for the length of the bridge. The path past that is replaced with a small hill with a hole going through it. After crossing the small stretch of water, you'll go into a golf cup with a daisy flag sitting above it. I'm removing these 3 road bumps here, and now you'll go through the hole in the hill up and cross the bridge as usual, but you'll be greeted by 2 paths. The left path will go up and over the right side path, while the right goes under and through. At the end of the left path is a boost panel so racers can keep pace while the right path has a decent spread of coins following the path under the overpass. Conveniently, there's a chunk of brick missing from the giant fence that gives anyone with a mushroom the chance to boost through the grass and take the ramp cut. Another winding path starts where this last bump was. There's a boost panel on the inside of the turn leading into the underpass with more coins. The right side overpass will have coins along it too, as well as a boost panel at the end of it. The next bridge is getting a slight change as well. I'm connecting the 2 mountains to make one large one. The bridge connecting the 2 will turn into a wooden overhang. The new middle mountainside has a pit of sand that functions as off-road. The sand pit cuts a bit into the track, forcing you to take a wider turn than before. You'll be able to boost through it for a minor cut and a jump out of the pit. The overhang has a few boost panels to compensate for the wider turn, and up ahead is a large windmill standing in the middle of the track. The blades don't spin very fast, and the entrance to the windmill makes this hazard pretty forgiving. Beyond the windmill, the goats frolic without a second thought. They're a bit more aggressive in their pathing though. They jump back and forth across the track and you'll be able to drive under them as they jump. Another fun idea I had was that instead of the goats, they would be replaced with white sheep that roll across the track like giant fluffy golf balls. There will be 2 paths off to the sides of the windmill. To the left is the grass patch that you'll need a mushroom to get through without slowing down. The only other way to get to the path after that is to use a feather to clear the bricks or to charge jump onto the wall and climb over. The path off to the right goes into another golf hole cup. And with that, I'm taking out the wooden path with the boost panels. The hole cup takes you inside the mountain where you'll drive through a natural water slide and get spit out from the side of the mountain inward to the final bridge. This route is a little slower, but you'll be secluded from the majority of other racers, and if you get hit by an item in the water slide, it will help you to rebuild your top speed back. Right before the final bridge segment is a giant hole cup that you'll jump into. There's a giant flagpole with a daisy emblem flying high. Once inside the giant hole, a water slide will boost you down straight towards the bridge, where you'll take the boost panels into the glider ramp. You'll then glide back towards the town to finish the lap. There's also some alternate paths as well. If you use a feather, you can get high enough on the pole and do a DK pass pole vault trick to jump across the hole cup toward another glider ramp. There's also 2 ramps on both sides of the cup across from some small sand pits. These let you mushroom boost off them to get to the glider ramp as well. The glider ramp on the top of the hole cup won't have any doubled item boxes though. The only change I'll be making to the town is segmenting this building into 2 separate ones and adding a ramp to jump across the rooftops. There's some buntings like in Yoshi Falls on this course, so you'll be able to rail grind on those too. The set of stairs before the finish line will also have a railing in the center now, just for some extra little variety. When it comes to playing through the map in Grand Prix and Knockout Tour, you'll get to the course between the buildings I newly separated. It would be fun to have some goats hopping about on the track leading up to the course. They'd be good as hazards on the intermission tracks of some of the other animals. A few more parts of housing in the Daisy Hill style would add some more fun visuals and alternate routes via the rooftops too. As for free roam stuff, I don't really know, to be honest. If they could make a fun golfing minigame out of the course, then do that. Could be kinda like the watermelon shine from Mario Sunshine, but with less all of it. Otherwise, that's all my changes to 3DS Daisy Hills. For this last one, I'm expanding on another idea that Mario Kart 8 also introduced. I'm bringing back the Snooki Mario and Cat Peach skins, but this time every character that has a variant of these items will have a skin for them. This includes Meowser and Meowser Jr., and Cat Goomba and Conkdor, for example. We could give new costumes for characters that didn't get one too. Cat and Snooki Daisy would make sense since both Peach and Rosalina already have them. And we already have Bee Wario, so get all the human characters into Bee suit. Or Cat Wario. That'll drive up game sales, I bet. Also, put in the penguin suit. That'd be funny.
Mario Kart! Hey!
It's almost time for the grand finale. Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U to Mario Kart World was the longest wait between entries in the new series ever. When it comes to the Booster Course Pass, I'm saying it's included in the pool of potential candidates for the record. But all the nitros introduced across the new waves were all good. Sky High Sunday got the redemption of the century in World, so it doesn't count obviously. With that said, here are the candidates for the worst track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Water Park, Twisted Mansion, Bone Dry Dunes, and Rainbow Road. For what it's worth, MK8 Deluxe's course list is surprisingly really good considering its sheer volume of courses. Most of the bad tracks in it are just mid. And if the worst courses in your game are 5 out of 10s, that's pretty damn good. I'd say the one I'm eliminating first is Bone Dry Desert. I know there's technically only 2.5 of these course types in Mario Kart World right now, but desert tracks have never really had that much sway regardless. We've also already got a better fossil aesthetic course with Dry Bones Burnout. I'd rather they just bring back Dry Ruins instead. As for Rainbow Road, it doesn't have many strengths as a course, let alone a Rainbow Road. These courses tend to follow one of 2 major appeals: a final gauntlet to test the skills of the player, or a spectacle to celebrate Mario Kart. I'd wager this course relies more on the spectacle of it being a space station more so than anything. Its course design is simple but decently effective, all things considered. I just think if we were to add another Rainbow Road to MKW, it'd have to be at least in a similar vein to the style of the SNES Rainbow Road. MKW's rendition is very much spectacle, and is an endurance test like N64's, but with more variety. So Wii U Rainbow Road just doesn't feel right as it doesn't really complement World's version. Now we're all down to Water Park and Twisted Mansion. Water Park, to myself and most people I've seen and spoken to about it, just don't really care about this track. It's a marginally better version of Cheep Cheep Lagoon, in the sense that it functions mostly as an introduction to driving underwater. The water park idea is such a fun concept as well. It's a shame that they never really went anywhere with it. Twisted Mansion, on the other hand, kind of feels like they wanted to make their own Luigi's Mansion track, but Big L said,
That I cannot do. Now you come to me and you say, Luigi, give me justice. But you don't ask with respect.
And they just took his name out of the title and pushed it out anyways. There's some fun ideas on the track, but it feels weirdly undercooked in a lot of ways. But laying it all out, if we're going to bring back a Haunted Mansion course into World, it should be a Luigi's Mansion. This track won't be missed, especially since I've brought back Banshee Boardwalk, which gives it a more unique style of haunted house course than this track does. So our 8th and final winner is Water Park. Oh boy, Water Park. A lot of you are probably wondering how I'm going to redesign this course considering there's no underwater driving in MKW. But need I remind you, we've already gotten Wario Shipyard. Euros call it Galleon, which kind of makes sense, but British people aren't real. I know you faked those accents for the bit, don't lie to me. So getting into the visual side of the track, not much will change. I think having a few smaller attractions around the course could be fun. You could add some small water slides next to the track for free roam, and a lazy river would be cute. Outside of that, I think Water Park's visuals in 8 were never really its issue, so adapting it into World just requires some more fine tuning and making things make sense. Like, why is the hotel just floating above the water? That's a little weird. You can honestly keep it like that, just add a bit of an elevation with a cement platform partially sitting on the water. And turning some of these little pathways into the same kind of white wooden boardwalk as the Waluigi seabed that's off to the side here would give it some more character. The subcoaster sign is being replaced with one that says subslide. More on that later. But enough of that. Let's get into the track changes. I'll start by addressing the biggest issue with redesigning this track being this big loop. Obviously this loop can't stay completely vertical, so I'm just leaning it back a bit up to about a 45-degree angle. There will be a cascading waterfall that will give you resistance as you climb up, and give you a boost as you cross the peak and descend back down to the rest of the course. The water is shallow, so you'll be driving on wheels. There will be long boost panels covering the road end to end as you climb, and also rafts that slide down the track on either the left, right, or middle of the track. Once down towards the end of the loop, you'll be met with a ramp and boost panels to jump over the rafts that are crossing into the lazy river. This brings us to the merry-go-round, which now sits just above the water. The ending of the track doesn't change. There's still the same glider ramp and the nice set piece of the Wario wheel that sits as a minor hazard, but as we loop back around to the start of the course, the entrance to the subslide before the first ramp jump is no longer a climb up, but a descent down. You'll go into a large, open top tube slide. There's water going down the tube that gives a speed boost when driving in it. There's still the same split in the two paths at the bottom of the tube like before, but the left slide that's slightly elevated will now have a glider ramp. Once you exit the tube, you'll enter a wave pool. Inside the wave pool, the submarine that used to be on the loop now peaks just above the water. If you can climb onto it, there's a few rails to grind on as you move through the wave pool. This leads you into the loop once again and you'll continue through the course. I went a little out of order for the majority of this remake, so I kind of spoiled some of the ideas I had for free roam. I think having some fun challenges in the new lazy river that sits in the middle of the track would be fun, with some more slides around the park like I said earlier. We could have a really cool entrance through the track via the Waluigi seabed. You could have it connect to the beginning of the track, but I think it'd be way better to have it go through the subslide so you'll have a chance to drive through the course at least twice, like some of my other recreations. I will say, adding any kind of theme park into Mario Kart World kind of begs the question. I think if Nintendo brought back this track, they'd probably have no choice but to bring back Baby Park. The whole theme park in the open world can't just have one track in it. They know this, so even though I'm not saying this is going to be a 2-for-1 deal, it might just be. But I'm not remaking Baby Park. Can you even remake Baby Park? It's just an oval. But whatever, I'll leave it at that. So, here's my rendition of Wii U Water Park. So, what was your favorite remake? What was your least favorite? Shit, if you want, you can make a little mini tier list down in the comments of which courses you would want to play the most. If you like fan theories and speculation like in this video, check this one out. I created my own fan theory of what Super Mario Galaxy 3 would look and play like. Obligatory call to action to leave a like and smash that subscribe button and ring that bell so you always know when I'm posting something new. Alright, now get lost. I have more Mario Kart World to play over on my Twitch. I gotta rise through the ranks, brother. And hey, remember to keep that energy up. Peace.